Maya-Chen had always been different from other humans on the research station. While her colleagues studied alien flora from behind protective barriers, she preferred getting her hands dirty in the soil of unexplored worlds. Today was no different as she ventured into the crimson forests of Zarian Prime. Her scanner beeping softly as she catalogued. New plant species. The red-leaf trees towered above her like ancient sentinels, their crystalline bark reflecting the twin sun's light in dazzling patterns. Maya had been walking for 3 hours when she heard it, a low, rumbling sound that seemed to shake the very ground beneath her feet. It wasn't the call of any creature in her database. Following the sound deeper into the forest, Maya pushed through a curtain of hanging vines and stopped dead in her tracks. Before her lay the most magnificent and terrifying creature she had ever seen. The beast was easily 20 feet long, with scales that shifted between deep purple and black like oil on water. Its 4 powerful legs ended in claws that could tear through steel, and its serpentine neck supported a head filled with teeth, designed for killing. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't the creature's fearsome appearance, it was the obvious pain it was in. The dragon-like predator lay on its side, breathing heavily. Its left wing was folded awkwardly, and Maya could see something protruding from the membrane between the wing bones. A massive thorn, easily 2 feet long and thick as her arm, had pierced completely through the delicate wing tissue. Maya's first instinct was to run. This was clearly an apex predator, something that could kill her without a second thought. But as she watched the creature struggle to move, she felt something her colleagues often said would get her killed one day: compassion. The creature's golden eyes fixed on her, and Maya expected to see hunger or aggression. Instead, she saw something that reminded her of an injured animal back on Earth: intelligence, fear, and desperate hope. The beast made no move to attack, perhaps too weak from blood loss or perhaps recognizing that she meant no harm. Maya slowly reached into her pack and pulled out her medical scanner. The readings confirmed what she suspected. The creature was losing blood, and the thorn had damaged major blood vessels in the wing. Without treatment, it would die within hours. She had 2 choices: walk away and let nature take its course, or try to help a creature that could easily kill her the moment it felt better. Maya had always believed that intelligence, regardless of its form, deserved respect and aid when possible. She made her decision. Moving slowly and keeping her hands visible, Maya approached the injured predator. The creature watched her every movement but made no aggressive gestures. Its breathing was labored, and she could see the intelligence in its eyes tracking her approach. When she was close enough to touch the thorn, she stopped and spoke softly. "Easy there, big guy. I'm going to help you, but this is going to hurt." Maya examined the thorn carefully. It was embedded deep in the wing membrane, but removing it wouldn't be impossible with the right tools. She pulled out her emergency medical kit, designed for treating human injuries, but hopefully adequate for this situation. The portable laser scalpel could cut through organic matter with precision, and she had enough synthetic blood-clotting agent to seal the wounds. The creature's eyes never left her face as she prepared her tools. Maya could see the conflict in those golden orbs, the instinct to flee warring with the need for help, and perhaps a growing trust in this small human who showed no fear. As Maya powered up the laser scalpel, the creature flinched but didn't pull away. The sound of the medical tool seemed to fascinate rather than frighten it. Maya realized this being had likely never encountered technology before. Yet it was intelligent enough to understand she was trying to help. Working carefully, Maya began to cut around the base of the thorn where it had punctured the wing membrane. Dark blue blood oozed from the wound, and the creature let out a low whine but remained perfectly still. The trust it was showing amazed Maya. This predator was allowing her to operate on it despite having no guarantee of her intentions. The work was delicate and dangerous. One wrong move could sever a major blood vessel and kill the creature instantly. Maya's hands remained steady despite the magnitude of what she was attempting. As she worked, she noticed the creature's scales seemed to shift color slightly, becoming lighter around where she was working, as if responding to her presence. After what felt like hours but was only 20 minutes, Maya managed to free the thorn. Dark blue blood flowed freely for a moment before she quickly applied the clotting agent. The synthetic substance worked perfectly, sealing the wound and stopping the bleeding almost instantly. The creature's breathing immediately became easier, and some of the tension left its massive body. Maya stepped back to admire her work, and for a moment, human and predator simply looked at each other. The creature slowly extended its neck toward her, moving with careful deliberation. Maya held perfectly still as the massive head approached. Close enough that she could feel its warm breath on her face, the creature's tongue, surprisingly gentle for something attached to such a fearsome mouth, briefly touched her hand. It was clearly a gesture of gratitude, and Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had just saved the life of one of the most magnificent creatures she had ever encountered. And it was thanking her in the only way it knew how. The predator slowly struggled to its feet, testing its injured wing. The membrane was still tender, but it could move without the agonizing pain the thorn had caused. The creature looked at Maya one more time, and she could swear she saw what looked like a promise in those intelligent golden eyes, with a grace that belied its size. The creature turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving Maya alone with the massive bloody thorn as evidence of what had just occurred. She had no idea that her simple act of kindness had just changed the course of her life forever, or that she had earned the loyalty of one of the most dangerous predators on Zarian Prime. The shuttlecraft Phoenix descended through Kepler 442b's thick atmosphere with a gentle vibration that barely registered on the inertial dampeners. Captain Rodriguez piloted the craft herself, with Dr. Martinez monitoring the wounded, Vorthic's vital signs from the passenger compartment, and Dr. Kim reviewing her medical protocols on a portable tablet. Lieutenant Chin maintained communications with the Endeavor while Dr. Wright practiced basic Vorthak greeting phrases under his breath. As they approached the landing zone, Elena could see the creature more clearly through the shuttle's enhanced viewing port. The Vorthak had positioned itself in a defensive posture against the mining structure, its massive head turned toward their approaching craft. Despite its obvious pain, the creature's amber eyes tracked their movement with intelligent alertness. "Vital signs are stable but weak," Dr. Martinez reported. "Heart rate is elevated, consistent with stress and pain response. I'm detecting significant dehydration and what appears to be infection in at least 3 of the major wounds." Elena set the shuttle down approximately 50 meters from the Vorthak's position, close enough to render aid but far enough to avoid triggering an aggressive response. The creature's head lifted slightly at their landing, but it made no move toward or away from them. "Dr. Wright, can you establish any form of communication?" Elena asked as they began their pre-exit preparations. The young linguist activated his translation device and spoke slowly into the microphone. A series of low, harmonic tones emerged from the external speakers, accompanied by brief flashes of colored light. The Vorthic's ears, which had been pressed flat against its skull, suddenly perked forward with obvious interest. "I think I got its attention," Wright said with barely contained excitement. "I just told it that we're here to help and that we mean no harm." The response: "It's trying to communicate back, but its voice is too weak for my equipment to pick up clearly." Dr. Kim gathered her medical supplies while Elena checked her sidearm. She hoped she wouldn't need the weapon, but approaching an injured and potentially frightened alien predator required reasonable precautions. "Remember, everyone, slow movements, no sudden gestures. And if the creature shows any signs of aggression, we retreat immediately to the shuttle." The first step outside the Phoenix brought them into Kepler 442b's warm, humid environment. The air smelled of ozone and unfamiliar plant life, with an underlying metallic scent from the mining operations. The Vorthak watched their approach with growing alertness, its massive head following their every movement. Dr. Wright continued his attempts at communication, his voice steady despite the obvious nervousness he felt. "I'm telling it that we have medicine and water," he explained quietly to the others. "Vorthics understand basic concepts of healing and care, according to the linguistic databases." When they reached a distance of about 10 meters, the Vorthak made a sound that was part growl and part whimper. Dr. Wright's translation device rendered it as something like "why," followed by what might have been the Vorthok equivalent of confusion. "I think it's asking why we're here," Wright interpreted. "From what I understand of Vorthok's social structure, they don't have a concept of cross-species altruism. In their experience, other species only interact with them when there's something to be gained." Elena gestured for the team to halt while she considered their next move. The creature was clearly intelligent enough to be suspicious of their motives, which was both encouraging and challenging. An intelligent being might be reasoned with, but it would also be more likely to question their intentions. Dr. Kim stepped forward slightly, her medical bag clearly visible in her hands. She spoke directly to the creature, her voice gentle and reassuring, while Dr. Wright translated her words into the harmonic tones of Vorthok language. "We see that you're hurt. We have medicine that can help reduce your pain and heal your wounds. We don't want anything from you except to help you feel better." The Vorthok's response was a long, complex series of sounds that caused Wright's translation device to struggle momentarily. When the interpretation finally appeared on his display, his eyes widened in surprise. "It's asking if we're going to take it away to work for us once it's healed. It seems to think that any kindness must come with a price." Dr. Martinez shook her head sadly. 20 years of servitude would certainly create that expectation. It probably doesn't understand the concept of help without obligation. Elena made a decision that would later be cited in xenological textbooks throughout human space. She removed her sidearm from its holster, set it carefully on the ground, and stepped away from it with her hands clearly visible. Then she sat down cross-legged in the dusty soil, making herself as non-threatening as possible. "Tell it that we're not here to take anything from it," she instructed Wright. "Tell it that once it's healed, it's free to go wherever it chooses. We just want to help because helping is what we do." The translation took several minutes, with Wright struggling to find Vorthok concepts that matched human motivations. Finally, the creature responded with what sounded like a question. "It's asking what word we use for this kind of behavior," Wright reported. "Helping without expecting anything in return?" "Apparently there's no direct translation in its language." Elena smiled, thinking of all the human philosophical and religious traditions that had wrestled with this same concept throughout history. "Tell it that we call it compassion. Or maybe just being human." As Wright worked to convey this concept, the Vorthok slowly began to lower its defensive posture. Its great head moved closer to the ground, and one of its massive clawed hands extended slightly toward them in what Dr. Martinez recognized as a gesture of cautious trust. Dr. Kim took this as permission to approach, moving slowly with her medical scanner extended. "The wounds are deep but clean," she reported, "probably from sharp metal debris during whatever accident happened. No signs of toxin exposure or internal organ damage. This is definitely treatable." The creature allowed the human medical officer to examine its injuries, only flinching slightly when the scanner's beam passed over the deeper cuts. Its amber eyes never left Elena's face, as if trying to understand the motivations of these strange, soft aliens who claimed to help without seeking anything in return. As Dr. Kim began applying antiseptic to the wounds, the Vorthok made a sound that Wright's device translated as something between gratitude and confusion. It seemed to be asking why they would waste their resources on a creature that could give them nothing valuable. Elena looked up into those ancient, intelligent eyes and spoke directly to the creature, trusting Wright to translate her words accurately. "Because every life has value. Because suffering should be eased when it can be. Because sometimes the right thing to do is also the human thing to do." Maya's life had become a carefully balanced secret. By day, she maintained her role as a xenobotanist, cataloging the unique plant life of Xarian. Prime, but every moment spent outside the research station's protective barriers was now shared with an unseen guardian, whose presence had become as natural to her as breathing. 2 weeks after the Shadowclaw incident, Maya decided to test the boundaries of her unusual relationship. She had been leaving small offerings at the edge of the forest, protein bars, fruit from the station's hydroponics lab, anything that might appeal to a large predator. The food always disappeared by the next day, though she never saw her protector take it. Today, Maya ventured deeper into the forest than she had since their first encounter. She carried her usual equipment, but she also brought something new. A small recording device and a collection of images from Earth showing various animals and their relationships with humans. If her guardian was as intelligent as she suspected, perhaps they could find a way to communicate. The familiar sensation of being watched settled over her after about an hour of walking. Maya continued her work, collecting samples and taking readings, but she spoke aloud as she worked, describing what she was doing and why. She felt foolish at first, but gradually it became natural to share her thoughts with her invisible companion. "These spores are fascinating," Maya said, examining a cluster of glowing fungi. "They seem to communicate with each other through chemical signals. It's like they're having a conversation we can't hear." A soft rustling in the trees above made Maya look up. For the first time since the Shadowclaw attack, her protector was allowing itself to be partially visible. She caught glimpses of purple-black scales moving among the crimson branches, keeping pace with her as she walked, emboldened by this sign of trust. Maya stopped in a small clearing and sat down on a fallen log. She pulled out her recording device and began playing sounds from Earth, bird songs, whale calls, the barking of dogs, and the meowing of cats. She watched the trees carefully, and after each sound, she explained what animal made it and why. The response was immediate and unexpected. From somewhere above came a series of melodic sounds unlike anything in her database. They were clearly intentional, organized like language, and absolutely beautiful. Her protector was trying to communicate back. Maya quickly activated her recording device and gestured for the creature to continue. The sounds came again, more complex this time, with variations in pitch and rhythm that suggested sophisticated meaning. Maya realized she was listening to the first recorded example of communication from Zarian. Prime's apex predator, excitement coursing through her, Maya began a careful experiment. She played back the creature's sounds, then responded with simple human words, trying to establish a pattern. After an hour of this exchange, she began to notice something remarkable. The creature was adapting its vocalizations, incorporating elements that seemed designed to be easier for human vocal cords to approximate. As the afternoon wore on, Maya made another breakthrough. She pulled out her tablet and began showing images, pictures of humans helping, injured animals on Earth, a photo of a veterinarian treating a wounded eagle, a marine biologist freeing a whale from fishing nets, a child feeding birds in a park. The rustling in the trees intensified, and suddenly, with a grace that defied its massive size, her protector descended from the canopy. It landed in the clearing about 20 feet away, close enough for Maya to see every detail of its magnificent form. In daylight, the creature was even more impressive than she remembered. Its scales shimmered with an iridescent quality that made them seem almost alive, shifting between deep purple and blue-black depending on the angle of light. Its golden eyes were larger than she had realized, with pupils that could dilate and contract independently, suggesting vision far superior to human capability. But what struck Maya most was the intelligence visible in those eyes as the creature studied her tablet screen. It was clearly processing the images, understanding their meaning, and making connections to its own experience with Maya. The creature moved closer, its movements careful and deliberate. When it was close enough, it gently touched the tablet screen with the tip of one claw, pointing to the image of the veterinarian treating the eagle. Then it looked directly at Maya and made a series of soft sounds that somehow conveyed both gratitude and recognition. Maya's heart raced as she realized the full implications of what was happening. This wasn't just a grateful animal following her around. This was a sapient being with its own language, culture, and understanding of abstract concepts, like kindness and reciprocity. She pulled up more images on her tablet, photos of her research station, pictures of other team members, maps of the local area. The creature studied each one with obvious interest, occasionally making questioning sounds that Maya began to interpret as requests for more information. When Maya showed a map of the forest with the research station's location marked, the creature's response surprised her. It reached out with one claw and traced a path on the screen, indicating a route through the forest that avoided the territories of dangerous predators. It was sharing information about safe travel, contributing to their growing exchange of knowledge. As the sun began to set, painting the forest in shades of amber and crimson, Maya realized she needed to return to the station before her absence was noticed. She stood and began packing her equipment, explaining to her companion that she had to leave but would return tomorrow. The creature's response was unlike anything she had heard before, a complex series of sounds that clearly conveyed understanding, and what sounded like affection. The realization that this magnificent predator had developed an emotional bond with her brought tears to Maya's eyes. As she prepared to leave, the creature approached even closer and gently touched her pack with its snout. Maya understood immediately. It was offering to escort her back to the edge of the forest, ensuring her safe passage through its territory. The walk back to the station was unlike any experience Maya had ever had. Her protector moved through the forest beside her, sometimes visible, sometimes vanishing into the undergrowth, but always present. Other creatures fled at their approach, and Maya realized she was traveling under the protection of the forest's ultimate authority. At the edge of the energy barrier that surrounded the research station, Maya turned to say goodbye. Her protector emerged from the trees one final time, and for a long moment, they simply looked at each other, two different species who had found a connection that transcended the boundaries between predator and prey, between alien and human. Maya reached out and touched the creature's snout one more time. The scales under her hand shifted to a warm golden color, and the creature rumbled with that deep, contented sound that had become familiar. When Maya finally turned and walked through the energy barrier toward the station, she carried with her the knowledge that she had not just saved an animal's life, but had made first contact with an intelligent alien species. Back in her quarters that night, Maya listened to the recordings she had made and studied the behavioral notes she had taken. Tomorrow, she would have to decide whether to share her discovery with the research team or continue protecting the secret of her remarkable relationship. The choice would determine not just her future, but potentially the future of an entire species. Maya's decision came 3 days later when Dr. Harrison announced the arrival of a military expedition from Earth. The news hit the research team during their morning briefing, delivered with the casual tone that made Maya's blood run cold. The Colonial Defense Force is sending a reconnaissance team to evaluate Zarian Prime for potential colonization, Dr. Harrison explained, his weathered face showing no emotion. They'll be here for 2 weeks, conducting surveys and threat assessments. I want all research activities coordinated with their schedule. Maya's heart sank as she processed the implications. A threat assessment meant cataloging and potentially eliminating anything the military considered dangerous to future human settlers. Her protector, as the apex predator of the forest, would be at the top of that list. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez arrived that afternoon with a team of 20 soldiers equipped with advanced weaponry and survey equipment. Maya watched from her laboratory window as the military shuttles landed, their sleek forms a stark contrast to the research station's peaceful architecture. The soldiers who emerged moved with the disciplined precision of people trained to see everything as a potential threat. During the mandatory briefing for all research staff, Colonel Martinez outlined their mission with military efficiency. Our primary objective is to assess the viability of establishing permanent human settlements on Zarian Prime. This includes identifying and neutralizing any significant threats to colonial security. When Maya asked about protocols for dealing with indigenous life forms, the colonel's answer was exactly what she had feared. Our xenobiology team will catalog all major predators. Those deemed too dangerous for human coexistence will be eliminated as necessary for public safety. That evening, Maya made her choice. She couldn't let her protector become another casualty of human expansion, not when she knew as an intelligent being capable of communication and emotion. If there was going to be any chance of peaceful coexistence, someone needed to speak for the creatures of Zarian Prime. Maya accessed her personal files and began preparing a comprehensive report. She included her recordings of the creature's vocalizations, analysis of its problem-solving abilities, documentation of its emotional responses, and detailed behavioral observations. Most importantly, she included evidence of the creature's capacity for interspecies cooperation and its apparent moral reasoning. The next morning, Maya requested a private meeting with Dr. Harrison and Colonel Martinez. She brought her tablet loaded with evidence and a determination to protect the being. That had become more than just a grateful patient. It had become her friend. What you're about to see will challenge everything we thought we knew about the intelligence of Zarian Prime's wildlife, Maya began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She played the recording of her protector's vocalizations, showing the clear patterns and adaptive responses that indicated language. Dr. Harrison's eyebrows rose higher with each piece of evidence Maya presented. Colonel Martinez remained stone-faced, but Maya could see the calculating look in her eyes as she processed the implications. "Dr. Chun," the colonel said when Maya finished her presentation, "are you telling me you've had direct, unsupervised contact with an apex predator for over a month without reporting it?" Maya lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm telling you that I've made first contact with an intelligent alien species. And before we make any decisions about threat elimination, we need to consider that we might not be alone on this planet." The room fell silent. Dr. Harrison stared at Maya with a mixture of amazement and concern, while Colonel Martinez seemed to be running tactical calculations behind her expressionless facade. "Show us," the colonel finally said. "I want to see this creature and assess its threat level personally." The next day, Maya led a small team into the forest. Dr. Harrison, Colonel Martinez, 2 soldiers, and the expedition's xenobiologist, Dr. Park. Maya had tried to contact her protector the night before, venturing to the forest edge and calling out in what she hoped were recognizable sound patterns. She had received a response, but explaining the situation to a creature that spoke an alien language was proving challenging. As they walked deeper into the forest, Maya felt the familiar sensation of being watched. She quietly warned the team that they were now in her protector's territory and that any aggressive actions could be seen as a threat. "There," Dr. Park whispered, pointing to movement in the canopy above. "Something large is tracking us." Maya looked up and saw glimpses of purple-black scales moving through the trees. Her protector was being cautious, probably sensing the potential danger in this larger group of humans. "It's all right," Maya called softly, using some of the sound patterns she had learned. "They're here to learn, not to hurt." The response was immediate, a series of melodic calls that Maya had learned to associate with curiosity mixed with caution. The creature was asking questions in its own language, trying to understand the situation. What happened next demonstrated the remarkable intelligence Maya had tried to describe. Instead of approaching directly, her protector began what could only be described as a performance designed to showcase its capabilities without appearing threatening. The creature moved through the trees with impossible grace, demonstrating its agility and intelligence by solving complex 3-dimensional puzzles as it navigated the forest canopy. It showed them how it could camouflage itself by adjusting its scales to match the surrounding environment, appearing and disappearing like a living shadow. Most impressively, it began creating what Dr. Park immediately recognized as geometric patterns in the forest floor using fallen branches and stones. The patterns were clearly deliberate, showing mathematical understanding and artistic sensibility that proved cognitive abilities far beyond simple animal intelligence. Colonel Martinez watched everything with the sharp attention of a professional soldier, but Maya could see her rigid posture gradually relaxing as the demonstration continued. When the creature finally descended to ground level, maintaining a respectful distance but clearly showing it wasn't afraid, the colonel's assessment was grudgingly impressed. "It's definitely intelligent," she admitted. "But intelligence doesn't automatically mean non-threatening. I need to see how it responds to perceived threats." Dr. Harrison stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his usual caution. Dr. Chen, can you ask it to demonstrate its problem-solving abilities more directly? Maya pulled out her tablet and showed the creature a series of simple puzzles and mathematical concepts. The creature's responses were immediate and accurate, solving problems that would challenge many humans in demonstrating understanding of abstract concepts like equivalence and pattern recognition. But the real test came when one of the soldiers accidentally triggered an equipment alarm. The sudden loud noise could have caused any wild animal to attack or flee. Instead, Maya's protector immediately positioned itself between the humans and the source of the sound. Clearly interpreting the situation as a potential threat to the group had decided to protect, the creature's defensive posture lasted only moments. As soon as it determined there was no actual danger, it relaxed and actually seemed to show concern for the soldier who had been startled by the alarm. Colonel Martinez observed everything with growing amazement. When the creature gently approached the nervous soldier and made soft, reassuring sounds, she finally understood what Maya had been trying to tell them. "This isn't just an intelligent predator," the colonel said slowly. "It's a sapient being with complex social behaviors and moral reasoning. It's protecting us, not threatening us." Dr. Harrison was frantically taking notes, his excitement barely contained. "The implications are staggering. We're looking at the first confirmed intelligent alien species humanity has encountered, and it's demonstrating altruistic behavior toward other species." As the afternoon wore on, Maya watched her protector interact with each team member in turn, clearly assessing their intentions and establishing its own relationship with each human. By the time they prepared to return to the station, Colonel Martinez had made her decision. "I'm recommending that Zarian Prime be classified as an inhabited world," she announced. "Any colonization efforts will need to include protocols for interaction with the indigenous intelligent species. This changes everything." Maya felt relief flood through her as she realized her gamble had paid off. By trusting others with her secret, she had potentially saved not just her protector, but established a foundation for peaceful coexistence between two intelligent species. As they walked back to the research station, Maya's protector followed at a distance, its golden eyes reflecting satisfaction and what she could swear looked like approval. The creature had understood the purpose of the demonstration and had chosen to trust Maya's judgment about these other humans. That evening, as Maya watched the sun set over the crimson forest, she realized that her simple act of removing a thorn had led to one of the most significant moments in human history: first contact with an alien intelligence, facilitated by compassion and mutual respect rather than conquest and domination. The weeks following the first official contact transformed both the research station and Maya's relationship with her protector in ways she never could have imagined. Dr. Harrison had requested immediate reinforcement from Earth, and the research team swelled from 30 to nearly 100 specialists in xenolinguistics, xenopsychology, and interspecies communication. Maya found herself thrust into the role of humanity's primary liaison with what the team had officially designated as the Zarian Dracoforms. Her protector, whom she had privately begun calling Vorth after learning to approximate one of its self-referential sounds, had become the bridge between two entirely different forms of consciousness. The breakthrough in communication came through Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenolinguist who had spent years developing theoretical frameworks for non-human language. Working with Maya's extensive recordings and observational data, Dr. Kim discovered that the Dracoform language was unlike anything in human experience. It was three-dimensional, incorporating not just vocalizations but scale color changes and subtle chemical markers. "They don't just speak with sounds," Dr. Kim explained to the assembled team during a morning briefing. "Their language includes visual components through chromatic scale shifts and chemical components we can barely detect. When Vorth communicates, it's like watching someone paint with words while simultaneously broadcasting emotional states through pheromones." This discovery explained why Maya had been partially successful in communicating with Vorth. Her emotional states, conveyed through human pheromones and body language, had been providing context for her verbal attempts at communication. The creature had been reading her intentions and feelings as much as listening to her words. With this understanding, the team developed new communication protocols. They created visual displays that could approximate the color changes of dracoform scales and chemical sensors that could detect and analyze the pheromone components of their language. Progress accelerated rapidly. Vorth proved to be not just intelligent but remarkably patient with the humans' clumsy attempts at communication. It would repeat complex concepts multiple times, using different approaches until the humans understood. More impressively, it began incorporating human gestures and simplified vocalizations into its own communication style, actively working to bridge the gap between species. The real revelation came when Vorth led Maya and a small team to a hidden valley deep in the forest. What they found there shattered every assumption about dracoform society. The valley contained what could only be described as a city, though unlike any human settlement. Crystalline structures grew from the valley floor like organic skyscrapers, their surfaces alive with shifting patterns of light and color. Streams of water flowed in impossible spirals around and through the buildings, controlled by some technology that seemed to blend engineering with biology, but the most stunning sight was the inhabitants. Maya counted at least 50 other dracoforms, moving through the valley, each one unique in size, coloring, and scale patterns. They had found not just an intelligent species, but an entire civilization. Vorth's role in its society became clear as they approached the city. Other dracoforms gathered to observe the strange visitors, their scales shifting through complex patterns that Dr. Kim identified as rapid-fire communication. Vorth positioned itself between the humans and its people, clearly explaining and vouching for the newcomers. Maya realized that Vorth wasn't just her protector. It was also serving as humanity's first ambassador to an alien civilization. The creature she had helped by removing a simple thorn had become the key to preventing what could have been a catastrophic first contact scenario. The dracoforms, Maya learned, had been observing human activities since the research station was established. They had been debating among themselves how to respond to the arrival of these strange, small beings who built artificial structures and modified their environment so drastically. Some dracoforms had advocated for driving the humans away before they could establish a permanent presence. Others had suggested more aggressive action to protect their territory. But Vorth's experience with Maya had provided a different perspective, proof that humans could show compassion and respect for other forms of life through painstaking translation. Work. Maya learned that Vorth had been what humans might call a young adult when they first met, exploring the edges of dracoform territory when it was injured by the Thorn. Its decision to trust Maya and later to reveal itself to protect her had been seen by some as reckless endangerment of their entire species. But Vorth's subsequent reports about human behavior, particularly Maya's willingness to risk her own safety to help an injured creature, had shifted the debate within dracoform society. When the military expedition arrived, Vorth had convinced the Dracoform Council to wait and observe rather than take preemptive action. Maya's decision to reveal her relationship with Vorth to the human authorities had been the final proof the Dracoforms needed. Here was evidence that at least some humans valued life and intelligence regardless of its form, and were willing to risk their own positions to protect others. The valley contained wonders that would revolutionize human understanding of biological engineering. The dracoforms had developed biotechnology that could reshape matter at the molecular level, growing structures that were simultaneously living organisms and functional machinery. Their water control systems used modified organisms to create gravity-defying flows that generated both power and beauty. But perhaps most impressive was their approach to environmental management. The dracoforms had achieved perfect harmony with their ecosystem, their city functioning as an integral part of the forest rather than an imposition upon it. They had solved sustainability challenges that human civilization had been struggling with for centuries. As the weeks passed, cultural exchange began to flow in both directions. The dracoforms were fascinated by human technology, particularly their ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields and their mathematical approaches to engineering. Maya watched Vorth learn to operate a tablet computer, its claws adapting to the interface with surprising dexterity. In return, Humans began learning dracoform techniques for biological manipulation and environmental integration. Dr. Park worked with dracoform biotechnicians to understand how they could grow buildings that were alive, self-repairing, and perfectly adapted to their environment. But the most significant exchange was cultural. The dracoforms had a concept called Zeth Kai, which roughly translated to protective kinship. It described the bond between individuals of different species who chose to care for each other, despite having no biological or social obligation to do so. Maya realized that this was exactly what had developed between her and Vorth, a relationship that transcended species, boundaries, and was based on mutual respect, gratitude, and genuine affection. The dracoforms saw this as the highest form of ethical behavior, proof that true intelligence included the capacity for love and sacrifice that extended beyond one's own kind. As Maya watched Vorth interact with both human and dracoform friends in the valley, she understood that their chance encounter in the forest had become something far greater than either of them could have imagined. They had become symbols of what was possible when different forms of consciousness approached each other with openness and compassion. The thorn Maya had removed from Vorth's wing had indeed been a small thing, but sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create ripples that change the course of history. In helping one injured creature, Maya had opened a door between two civilizations, and proven that the vast distances between stars were nothing compared to the connections that could form between different forms of intelligent life. Standing in the alien city, watching her protector translate between human and dracoform children who were learning to play together despite their vastly different forms, Maya knew that the future of both species had been forever changed by a simple decision to show compassion to a creature in pain.